The date is March 2nd, 1962. In an effort to attract new fans to the still growing league, the NBA is experimenting with having official league games be played in smaller towns across the country. Tonight, the Philadelphia Warriors will face off with the New York Knicks in Hershey, Pennsylvania, tipping off in an old hockey arena nearly 85 miles from the bright lights of Philly. There are no expectations for the game. The Knicks are the worst team in the NBA, and the Warriors have already secured second place behind the four-time champion Boston Celtics. There is no reason for this game to ever be referenced again, until the unthinkable happened. Warriors star big man Wilt Chamberlain, considered by many to be the league's best player despite only being in his third season, would put on a performance that many consider the most unbreakable record in sports, scoring 100 points in a single regulation game. It will go down as the most notorious night in NBA history. Only one thing is missing: any footage of the game ever taking place.
A rising young star on the basketball horizon a few years ago in Philadelphia, he was Wilt Chamberlain, nearly 7 feet tall even then, who was the most remarkable high school hoop player ever to come on the scene. With his extraordinary height, he was head and shoulders over his rivals, you might say. During his high school days, there was no one in his class defensively, and when driving for a basket, Wilt was almost unstoppable.
The legend of Wilt Chamberlain began long before he stepped on an NBA floor. As a young kid at Overbrook High School outside of Philadelphia, Wilt had already become a household name across the city.
Wilt would not only block your shot, Wilt could go up in the air and catch your shot, which was like, ooh. He was changing how basketball games were played in the mid-50s.
The whole aura of Wilt Chamberlain permeated the whole school. Everybody was excited about the possibility that we're going to have the greatest basketball player in history. It's impossible to describe. There was no way of stopping him. In our gym, he could run the length of the gym in 4 or 5 steps and dunk the ball. He scored 90 points in 28 minutes in the high school game, and he had 15 points in 1 minute. Every time you opened up the paper, you would read something about Wilt Chamberlain.
The legend of Wilt Chamberlain would grow at the University of Kansas, where he became a conference champion high jumper and became a star for the men's basketball team.
Coach Bog Allen calls Chamberlain already one of the greatest players I've ever seen.
In fact, at his very first varsity game for Kansas, Wilt would score 52 points, a number that still stands as a record.
The other coaches around the country said, if we're going to play Kansas and we're going to play Wilt Chamberlain, we're going to have to find out some way to stop this guy from scoring points.
Record sellout throngs turned out to watch the widely heralded Chamberlain.
So they would put 4 guys around me on defense, and then when they got the ball, they would hold it. But even with them holding the ball, a lot of our games being 45 to 50 points, I was still averaging 30 points a game. But I didn't care about the average as much as I wanted to get out there and play. I want to run and do the things that I thought basketball players were supposed to do.
Looking for an opportunity to show what he could really do, Wilt Chamberlain would elect to leave the University of Kansas, instead joining the most famous basketball team in the world, the Harlem Globetrotters.
The Globetrotters would play some games before Warrior games in Philadelphia. Globetrotters would play the first game, full house. When they finished playing, the arena would empty out, and then the Warriors would play.
The Trotters are a team of basketball wizards featuring one of the most talked about players in years, 7-foot Wilt Chamberlain.
When you're a kid, a black kid at that, the Harlem Globetrotters are like heaven. If it wasn't for the challenge of just playing with the best players in the world, I would probably never left the Globetrotters.
Hungry for a new challenge, Wilt Chamberlain would take his talents to the National Basketball Association. But the NBA of that day wasn't like the NBA today. In fact, before Wilt, the game was completely different.
A slow motion, slow dance game. Most of the guys in the league couldn't dunk. And here comes this phenomenon showing everybody what the future is.
Chamberlain electrifies the crowd with his celebrated dipper dunk.
No athlete in a team sport has ever brought the elements of size, strength, and speed into a league as the young Wilt Chamberlain brought into the NBA in 1959.
Chamberlain with the rebound, push, go in. Russell had his hand on the ball, but Chamberlain forced it through.
Stylistically, he was unprecedented. There was nobody who was like Wilt. You know, this was the first real athlete, 7 feet and above. One sports writer likened the first sight of Wilt to the first sight of the New York City skyline. It was majestic, whether seen from up close or afar. You just kind of went, wow.
Wilt was a Paul Bunyan figure, mythic in what he could personally do.
He was Goliath, the strongest basketball player that ever lived. The case closed.
He changed the concept of a game from being played on the floor to being played above the basket. Period, end of report.
By the time he came to the league in 1959, I had won 2 titles with the Celtics. But matching up against him was a whole different deal. We played 142 times over the next decade. And along the way, we changed basketball forever.
Over the history of the NBA, that's probably as dramatic a matchup as you've ever seen any time. It was like 2 titans of the game meeting, and you'd have headlines, and Russell versus Chamberlain.
I found myself watching those guys while I tried to play, while I tried to guard Havlicek. They were characters. You know, they both had goatees, and they were both a product of their time, which was the 60s, and they were a little radical in their attitude, and they were the league.
Although his career was just getting started, 7'1" Wilt Chamberlain had already established himself as the NBA's best. In his first year as a professional, he had not only won Rookie of the Year, but also took home MVP honors at just 23 years old. In his first 2 seasons, he had already set multiple scoring records, and now in his third, was dominating like never before.
Chamberlain puts it in. Chamberlain, boxed in and all, still gets the showaway. Chamberlain drops one.
Prior to the start of the season, new head coach of the Philadelphia Warriors, Mark McGuire, had promised to feed the ball to Wilt 2/3 of every game, a strategy that had resulted in Chamberlain averaging over 50 points per game in the 1962 season. This included dropping a then NBA scoring record 78 points earlier that year.
He had a great deal of belief in my ability, and he instilled that belief into the team, and he actually put me in a position to have maybe the greatest single season that I think a basketball player could possibly ever have.
Chamberlain is the greatest scoring machine the game has ever known, and he can score on you in dozens of ways. Here's one you can't stop, the fall-away jumper.
McGuire gave Wilt the key to the offense of this team. He gave him the key to the season. Said, go ahead, big fella, take it away. Let's see how high we can fly. And he starts throwing down these thunderbolts. He goes 48-25 the first game, 57, 32 rebounds the second, and then 53, 55, 43. Silly numbers, crazy numbers.
Wilt spins around his defender and garners points 47 and 48.
Man's averaging 50 points a game. He's averaging 50. A bad night is 44.
In an 80-game season, he played 79 complete games. He missed 8 minutes of one game because it got thrown out. Other than that, he played every moment of every one of those games.
I asked him how long he'd like to play. He said, I never get tired. And I said, you'll play all the games? He said, yes.
That was inconceivable to us. How the hell do you stay so strong all season? How do you avoid fouling out? How do you take a beating every night with guys pushing you, punching you, grabbing you, and come back the next night fresh as a daisy? How the hell do you do this, Wilt?
Just one game, 48 minutes a game is really enough, you know, but playing a whole season, 48 minutes a game. I mean, when I look back in retrospect, I say, what were they doing to me?
He'd get 63, he'd get 70. I mean, miraculous things. We were in awe of what he was doing out there against the best players in the world.
Chamberlain's 61-62 season, it almost looks cartoon-like in its dominance. Michael Jordan scored 50 or more points 31 times in his career. Impressive. Wilt did it 45 times in one season.
Following the lead of their star, the Warriors found themselves locked in at second place in the NBA, trailing only Bill Russell's Boston Celtics in the standings. Philadelphia and Wilt himself had been stuck in the shadow of the early Celtics dynasty, and with only 5 games remaining in the regular season, were preparing for another battle with the guys in green. With their eyes already on the postseason, there was little concern or care about a seemingly meaningless regular season game against the last place New York Knicks. In fact, the team was so uninterested that Wilt himself almost never made it to the game at all. According to his own accounts, he had spent the night before in New York City, partying into the early hours of the morning, then took an early train off no sleep to Philadelphia.
I had not had an hour's sleep. I lived in New York City. I had to commute from New York to Philadelphia to catch a team bus. We left around 11 or 12 o'clock. And if anyone knew me at that time, I had insomniac, and I never really went to bed before 4 or 5 in the morning. And so sometimes it's better just we just stay up. Plus, I had a date that night before, and so everything led to me not having a night's sleep.
This nearly caused him to miss the team bus, as the Warriors wouldn't be playing in their normal arena. The game was being played away from the big city altogether, taking place in Hershey, Pennsylvania, a last-ditch marketing tactic the NBA was using to try and draw smaller market fans to their product.
NBA was not big league. It needed to be worked on, it needed to be promoted, and it needed to be sold. If you came up with $3,000, you could get the Celtics to come in and play. And if you came up with 6, you can get 2 NBA teams.
Back then, the NBA hadn't really arrived yet. We used to play doubleheaders where 4 teams would play in one building. We played preseason games all through the Midwest. And Hershey, Pennsylvania was where we used to have training camp, and so they'd always farm a couple games out there. So it wasn't anything new to us.
Taking place at Hershey Sports Arena, an old, drafty ice hockey rink, the game itself was set up to be anything but glamorous.
I remember getting into the bus, going to Hershey from Philadelphia, and said, boy, am I tired. We would get to Hershey about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There were no hotels for us to go to and stay in because we didn't do those kind of things in those days. Straight to the arena where we had to wait around for 5 or 6 hours for the game.
They were there so early that they had something to while away their time by going here into this penny arcade, which is quite different today than it was then. Because right over in this section was a shooting gallery.
And I started shooting rifles and so on and so forth, and I couldn't miss anything. And one of my closest friends, Ike Richmond, he had talked to the guy out the door who had worked in the arena for 20 years and said the highest numbers ever posted here was such and such a thing. So he would bet me that I couldn't beat that, but I just blew all the numbers away. So if there was ever a clue that I was going to have a high day, this was definitely the clue.
And he told me afterwards, he said that he was really hot. He said that he was, mowing everything down. And I told him, yeah, but you mowed a lot of things down in the game tonight, too.
It was a cold, rainy Friday night in which only 4,124 people were said to have attended the game. Interestingly enough, it's been recorded that a number of those fans themselves were thought to only have attended to watch a pre-game basketball scrimmage between the NFL's Philadelphia Eagles and Baltimore Colts. You see, in only its 16th season, the NBA was fighting for its legitimacy. They were yet to be considered a major pro sports league by many, and were competing with college basketball for the attention of the public. This meant that a less meaningful regular season game such as this wouldn't be televised in any capacity. In fact, there wasn't a single member of the New York media present due to their coverage of Major League Baseball's spring training in Florida. There were so few media members in attendance that the Warriors publicist of the time was asked to be the contributing journalist for the Associated Press, United Press International, and the Philadelphia Inquirer all at once.
The New York guys didn't cover it at all. Who wants to take a bus ride from New York to Hershey on a Friday night in March?
There was one writer from the Philadelphia papers who covered the game. Virtually no press. Harvey covered it for everybody.
I was the PR director of the Warriors, the game statistician, the writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Associated Press, and United Press International. I've been in the NBA for 65 years, and this was by far the busiest night of my career. Some people don't even think the game was ever played. In fact, there have been several articles written which say that this game was a figment of Harvey Pollack's imagination. I want to congratulate myself for thinking of such a thing.
Only 2 photographers would be present in the arena at all, and there was only 1 radio crew on site to broadcast the game locally in Philadelphia. It has even been said on the record that any local video crews that were available were actually filming a circus, which happened to be in the area that same night. A series of events that set the stage for what should have been a forgettable night of basketball. As tip-off grew close, the Knicks would be without starting center Phil Jordan, who was out with an illness, something that was widely speculated to be a hangover from partying the night before.
We were a little short-handed that game. Phil Jordan, our center, was sick.
They said he had a shoulder injury, but he'd really had a late night out, and he was rooming with Donnie Butcher. And when Butcher left to go to the team bus, he heard Jordan in the bathroom vomiting, saying, "Butch, I ain't gonna make it." So the Knicks are going 1 man short, and that man happens to be 6'10".
This left the Knicks with just 2 players above 6'9", tasked with slowing down Wilt, one of which being backup center Cleveland Buckner, who Wilt had just given an NBA record 28 points in 1 quarter only 2 days prior. According to then Warriors coach Frank McGuire, the game plan for Philadelphia entering the contest was not to break any records. However, after just the first quarter, Wilt had already scored 23 points, including an uncharacteristic 9 for 9 from the free throw line.
At that time, certainly he was one of the worst free throw shooters in the league. And what people couldn't understand is he could put the ball in the basket with 3 guys hanging off his arms, some guy biting him on the shin, and now you take everybody away, and it's like the basket is moving.
On this particular night, remember what we said earlier about the arcade, that a special night was in effect? Well, here's another special thing that happened. Wilt didn't miss anything.
I was shooting out of realms I normally don't shoot it. I usually stay pretty much in the post, turn around fadeaway jump shots, but I was shooting jump shots from a little bit of the top of the key and running around. I was really hitting very, very well.
Every one of his fadeaways hit up high on the board, hit the rim, fell in. He was just shooting at a phenomenal percentage.
Chamberlain's early trips to the line had caused Darrell Imhoff, the man tasked with guarding Wilt early on, to get into foul trouble quickly. This moment is highlighted in Gary M. Pomerantz's book, Wilt 1962, where Pomerantz quotes Imhoff as yelling, "Well, why don't you just give the guy 100 now, and we'll all go home," at a ref following an early foul call. By halftime, the Warriors would give up some of their lead, but still found themselves up 79-68 as they entered the locker room. It was at this moment that the fate of the evening would change forever. Noticing that Wilt had already scored 41 points, veteran point guard Guy Rodgers made a proposition to his teammates before entering the second half. Let's get the ball to Dip. Let's see how many he can get.
And so, Wilt begins now to build this Everest. He's going to be at 41 points at the half, 13 of them from the free throw line. So something big is going on here, but you still don't know how big.
3 or 4 weeks earlier than that, Frank McGuire had said to the press, well, one day soon, Wilt will probably score 100 points.
As the team took the floor for the third quarter, the Warriors' tactic proved to be effective, and before long, Wilt had already surpassed 50 points.
Inside to Chamberlain. He's got it. Chamberlain at 75.
It was like watching some sort of a natural cataclysmic disaster, maybe, an earthquake or a flood of some sort. It was magnificent.
Wilt tried to come out of the game before he got to 100 points because the game was won, and many people say, well, he was trying to rub it in. He was not trying to rub it in. But Frank McGuire had made a pact with Wilt that we didn't know about. Maybe Tom knew about it. And he told Wilt he was going to average 50 points that year, which he did. And we didn't know about it. And then he also acted like he didn't know Wilt when Wilt was trying to come out of the game. He kept looking away from him.
The crowd got into the game in the second half, very much by starting to chant, we won 100. And they started that chant about my 60th point or so.
When he got into the 70s, then it started getting louder. The fans started going a little more crazy. And, everybody was just rooting. Every basket, the place was just bedlam.
Noticing that Chamberlain was being fed the ball nearly every possession, arena announcer Dave Zinkoff would begin to fire up the otherwise quiet crowd in attendance. With every bucket made by Wilt, Zinkoff began announcing his new point total to the crowd, something that began to build anticipation for everyone watching.
He was in his glory because he was announcing every point in the second half that Wilt scored. As the game wore on, all the people in the audience followed the zinc and made like a chorus, like it was a musical with a chorus in the background.
There's an announcement by Dave Zinkoff. On the PA, they're announcing the new record of 79, and during the announcement, Chamberlain goes right ahead through the announcement and makes a foul. He now has 81 points.
Zinkoff is informing the Warriors. This is how much further you need to go to get to the top of Everest.
History being written tonight in Hershey. The big man has broken the record and he's gone for more. What's in the fans' mind? They're thinking of the magic number, 100.
And nobody, actually, not a lot of people on either team realized that this was happening until probably Dave Zinkoff, who was the announcer for Philadelphia Warriors at that time, announced 80 points, 82 points or something like that going into the fourth quarter. And then we all realized that this was going to happen. And it was comical because from that point on, all the shots went to Wilt, all the passes went to Wilt.
I do remember Zinkoff calling out every basket. And that's 82. And that's 83. And now it's starting to plug in here. But think about this. It's plugging in with all the Warrior people. It's also plugging in with all the Knickerbocker people.
They're hollering, give it to Wilt. New York's got 3 men in front of him. Boy, they're belting Wilt around, too. He's got it now, and he bangs it in. They have 90 points. 90 points.
Everything now is intensified. It's the moment that, everyone is now clear what's at stake. And now the Knicks are playing to defend their good name, or what's left of their good name. Because if this happens, they know this much, that 50 years later, they're still going to be talking about this.
The thing that I really began to reflect on as a 100-point game was that the other team, being the Knicks, were trying their best to keep me from scoring any points at all. They would do things like foul my other team teammates. They would freeze the ball for as long as they could. They would do all sorts of dumb things. They weren't even trying to win the game. They were just trying to keep me from scoring 100.
As the two teams entered the fourth quarter, The crowd was really into the game, erupting every time Chamberlain touched the ball. With only 10 minutes to play, any form of normal gameplay was completely gone, as the Warriors abandoned all typical strategy in an effort to feed Wilt down low. Meanwhile, the Knicks had begun playing an interesting style of their own, electing to intentionally foul members of the Warriors and give up easy baskets in a desperate attempt to prevent Chamberlain from scoring.
The Knicks were 20 points behind during the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, and they were freezing the ball. You don't see a team losing by 20 or 30 freezing the ball.
The Knickerbockers just stalling for time, and they're booing the Knickerbockers.
And while they were freezing it, we were fouling them so that we'd get the ball back. And then consequently, when we did get the ball back, they were trying to foul our guards before the ball would get into Wilt.
And everybody on the Knicks team tried to get the ball to any player except Wilt. They would foul anybody. They just tried their best to keep the ball away from Wilt, and he was not going to go for it. Finally, we wound up throwing the ball from out of bounds all the way down the court to Wilt.
But my teammates, once they got the ball, made sure they couldn't get fouled. They ran in positions where they couldn't be and got me the ball under any circumstances.
Parisi with the ball down the right side, passes to Chamberlain. He's open, he shoots, he scores. Chamberlain at 98, he scored for 1-0-0.
By this point, every person in attendance was standing on their feet, surrounding the outside of the court as the anticipation built. The story behind Wilt's 100th point goes like this.
1 minute and 1 second to play. He has 98 points. Rogers throws long to Chamberlain. He's got it. He's trying to get up. He shoots. No good. The rebound, Luckenbill. Back to Chamberlain. He shoots. Up. No good. Now, the rebound, Luckenbill. Back to Rucklick.
As fate would have it, the ball would end up in the hands of backup Warriors center Joe Rucklick, who had been playing behind Wilt all season long. With the ball and history in his hands, Joe had a big decision to make.
New York is everywhere. The time's running out, the fans are going nuts. Zink is probably yelling at me, Joe, get the ball to Wilt, with the mic off. But the guys collapsed all around him, and I'm wide open. I've got a shot that's 12 feet. I can get into the score column in this game with a little quick jump shot. I stop dribbling and I hold the ball, and I see Wilt moving around, and he says, ooh, and he puts his hands like this. He bumps the guy off of his hip, and there he is. I threw in the ball, boom, the rest is history.
To Rucklick, into Chamberlain. Coming out of his stand.
After he scored, he ran back to be on defense. By the time he got in front of midcourt, the fans had already started coming out on the court.
They stopped the game. People are running out on the court. The Warriors players are all over him.
He was sort of perplexed. You know, what's he going to do? So he just stood there and held the hands of everybody.
People are all over the court. They're taking pictures. Flashbacks are going on.
The basket and he getting mobbed are to my left. I choose not to shake hands with him. I made a very calculated decision. I go over to the official scorer who's standing applauding and say, when he sits down, don't forget to give me that assist.
You never saw more people excited for one person than that. I mean, grown men acting like a group of little children.
The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Zipper.
History had been made on that night in Hershey, Pennsylvania, with Chamberlain watching as he became a legend overnight.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports history is made here this week, Hershey, Pennsylvania, in a game in which Wilt Chamberlain threw in 36 field goals, 28 fouls for a total of 100 points. This is just absolutely incredible. I'd like you to meet and congratulate Wilt Chamberlain. So let's bring him on.
It is the events following the game that feed into the mystery surrounding the feat. As mentioned before, there was no television broadcast of the game, meaning not a single second of footage is available to verify the events that took place. In fact, at first we didn't even have radio evidence. Following the conclusion of the game, WCAU Radio's original broadcast of the game was recorded over by one of the studio's engineers. This was common practice during the early days of radio, but it left the world without any trace of media evidence of Wilt's 100-point game. That is, until a copy of the broadcast was discovered in 1988, over 26 years later. In 1988, the NBA would uncover a portion of the original fourth quarter broadcast, which had been recorded by a Philadelphia fan using a dictaphone in the midst of the original broadcast. 2 years later, in 1990, another fan would come forward with his own section of the broadcast. A university student in 1962, he had fallen asleep during the original broadcast of the game and woke up to news that the radio station would be rebroadcasting a portion of the game that same morning. He decided to record this rebroadcast and then chose to come forward with it upon learning that the Hershey Community Archives had no evidence of the event taking place. The two recordings were then combined, creating the only piece of recorded evidence from that night. Questions surrounding the lack of video footage of the game itself have existed for over 60 years. Why did nobody think to record the game, especially after Wilt began approaching the record? As previously mentioned, the NBA was struggling to obtain opportunities to televise its product, and when they did secure those opportunities, it was usually reserved for highly anticipated games. Something that night in Hershey was anything but. There have been various accounts of people claiming to possess personal footage of the game itself. The most interesting of these claims came in 2014 from former Memphis Tigers head coach Josh Pastner, who claimed that his father, who had been a ball boy for the Warriors in 1962, had recorded the game itself. He said, quote, "My father was the ball boy for the 76ers for many, many years, and he and Wilt Chamberlain were very close. In fact, my father and his father taped the game reel to reel in the second quarter when it was in Hershey, Pennsylvania, in the 100-point game. They started when he had like 30-something. They thought that this was going to be a special night. They gave it to Wilt, the 100-point game, and Wilt gave it back to my dad and my dad's dad. He gave it back to them. They boxed it up, and he's still trying to find it. He's got all kinds of boxes, and he doesn't know if he lost it." End quote. There is obviously no way to verify if Coach Pastner's father was a ball boy the exact same year as the infamous 100-point game, nor is there a way to verify if he and Wilt were even close. But the idea that footage of the legendary 100-point game could still be out there is something that piques some interest. It's important to note that while handheld cameras had become more common for public use in the 60s, the practice of carrying a personal video camera would not be normalized until nearly a decade later, meaning the odds of someone personally recording the event itself were slim. Even more slim would be the idea that Wilt Chamberlain himself would have returned the footage that he had never seen and knew hadn't been recorded, without it being recorded in some capacity. Together, these considerations make it tough to believe the claims of Coach Pastner, but it's still fun to think there might be video evidence of one of sport's most unbreakable records sitting somewhere in a box.
I have a few big stories I tell, and get a little bigger, like the fish stories. Well, this is the one true story that I must tell you. There was a little over 4,000 people there at the game, but I have at least 50,000 people who have told me, oh yeah, you know, I was there when you scored 100 points. I said, oh yeah? Yeah, you know, I live in New York City, you know, so my father took me to the Garden, you know, saying, you know, some people would say Philadelphia. No one ever says Hershey, Pennsylvania, who tells me that story. But I think is what they're saying to you is that we remember you, Wilt, and the thing we remember the most about you was that 100-point game.
There are many questions that surround that night in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Discrepancies surrounding the game's box score, which are different between the official box score and the post-game broadcast from the radio tapes. Nearly 40,000 people who claim on record to have been in attendance that night, when only 4,124 were officially recorded. And of course, the questions about why there's no video evidence. In a way, the lack of clarity only adds to the mystique of it all. But what isn't a mystery is what that game meant for the future of the NBA. The night a player in a struggling league put professional basketball on front pages across the country. Wilt's accomplishments and records unravel as far as any single other athlete in the history of their own sport. He rewrote the record books in a way that is still widely untouched. But the crown jewel of these accolades is the 100-point night. It's the mark that players in the NBA have been chasing for decades.
I believe that a great basketball player on a good night for him or a hot night for him can score 100 points. I believe that, sincerely. I believe there are other records I have that they may have a hard time ever taking a look at.
I don't know if Wilt's record will ever be broken. But what I do know is on that mysterious night, Wilt Chamberlain did something that changed the trajectory of the game of basketball forever. And that alone is worth all of the questions.
I used to hate the fact that there was no video of it, but as time goes on, I think it kind of adds to the mystique of